So I've said this for a long time, Parfumeur makes really high quality fragrances at an affordable niche price point. Here we have 602 Bois Narcotique. This is one of the new ones. I know I did the Iris Cartagena and I did Napa Tuberosa, and I've acquired all of them. This is the one that I was waiting to get around to reviewing because as the weather gets colder, this is actually the darkest one of them all. This one is incense, there's cedarwood, there's pepper, there's a lot of other woods as well. And this one is definitely not for the faint of heart. This is one that I would say sample it first, but in any case, I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this one very soon, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on Bois Narcotique by Parfumeur, this is a newer release, and of course I've reviewed the other two new ones that I acquired, and I was waiting to review this one because it's more suitable for the really cold weather. I want to start the video off first by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance related content, and of course if you love smelling your best, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So when you think of the note breakdown, incense, there's cedarwood, there's pepper, it's gonna be dark and woodsy, maybe even a little smoky perhaps. I know this brand has a wide array of different olfactive profiles, so I think it's 001 is the neroli heavy one. They have one with tonka bean, they have one with, vetiver. I know they have one that is rose leaning, and they just have so many really wonderful fragrances. I have probably a dozen from the brand at this point. Here we have the darkest one that I've smelled from them, and I don't know if it can necessarily get much darker than this. In theory, I suppose it can. I mean, they can just throw a ton of birch tar or cade oil in a fragrance and it can get much, much darker. But I like that they can take a fragrance DNA, make it dark enough while still granting it wearability. And it's something that I think more brands should do. Nevertheless, I'm excited to talk to you about the smell. Let's start things off with a quick look at the presentation first. So right in the opening of this fragrance, I am gonna get the incense, and I suppose you're gonna get it too, right? But here's the thing, whenever we think of incense, sometimes we think of smoke. And as I mentioned earlier on in the video, this one doesn't have this overdose of, birch tar or cade oil. There are a lot of ingredients out there that can make a fragrance smell smoky. In the case of this fragrance, it does not smell smoky. And for me, that's a good thing, right? Like, we don't want a fragrance to be an overdose of smoke. If you want that, it exists, right? There's Vie et Armis by Beaufort London. There's Poltergeist by Heretic Parfum. There's A City on Fire by Imaginary Authors. There are many, many, many perfumes on the market that just smell like smoke to the point where they're basically unwearable. This fragrance, on the other hand, is wearable, but it still retains that dark edge that I really enjoy. So, the incense that's in here, I am getting olibanum, and it has this sort of a lemony pine vibe. So it's balsamic, it's earthy, it's green, it's rich, it's resinous. It is so, so, so good. And it's an unsweetened amber perfume. That's what you're gonna get as far as that incense is concerned. And then, of course, that combination of the cedarwood and the pepper is very, very good. So I've smelled some fragrances that contain Texas cedarwood. I've smelled some, or I think it's Virginian cedar, pardon me. I've smelled some that contain Atlas cedarwood. So I've tried a variety of different cedarwood based perfumes, and what I can say is that they've all smelled kind of peppery to me, right? As opposed to sandalwood, which can be a little sweet and creamy, and Gaiac wood has a smooth nature about it. Agarwood can be very dark and animalic. Cedarwood has always come across smelling very peppery. And of course, you combine cedar with literal pepper, it says pepper, poivre. This is going to be a dark peppery type of a fragrance. Not as peppery as something like Poivre 23 by Le Labo. And I know there's also Piper Nigrum by Lorenzo Villoresi. It's an Italian brand, an Italian perfume. That one has a lot of clove in it. So there are other expressions of pepper that either take it in a more spicy direction or in a darker direction. This one, I think it's a nice balance of the incense and the pepper. So try this one out. The cedarwood has a very gentle, sort of a darker personality about it. Gentle in the sense that it's not overbearing. It's not going to be as strong of a cedar as something like Super Cedar by Byredo. I always use that perfume as a frame of reference because I truly think it's one of the best cedarwood perfumes on the market. This one, on the other hand, takes it in a darker direction, but it is not aggressive because of the absence of the smoke. and I hope that makes sense. Nevertheless, if you're looking for a peppery, woodsy, cedarwood incense fragrance, no sweetness to speak of, something that's balsamic rich, a bit earthy as well, without an overdose of green ingredients either, you know, like fir and oak moss and vetiver and stuff like that, please try this fragrance, 602 Bois Narcotique Intense. I forgot to add intense. I suppose that's part of the name of the fragrance as well. So thank you for watching. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, as far as I'm concerned, this is unique. Comparing it to other incense-based perfumes, whether we're talking about Unum Laves by Filippo Sorcinelli, or we're talking about Incense Avignon by Comme des Garçons, this one stands out. Can't explicitly compare it to anything else. Also, when trying to compare it to other pepper-based perfumes, even Poivre Samarkand by Hermes, this one is just different, right? So I like that. I'm not afraid to say if a perfume is similar to something else, right? Like Carlisle by Marley smells like Red Tobacco by Mancera, which smells like Mystery Tobacco by Carolina Herrera, which I think predated it. Trajan by Electimus London smells like Baccarat Rouge. Like, there's a lot of niche perfumes that are reminiscent of other designer or niche perfumes. In the case of this one, really appreciate the uniqueness and the originality. Longevity, 8+ hours. Projection, I would say an arm's length, or maybe a little bit beyond an arm's length for the first hour of application. The versatility of this fragrance, people will say it's masculine leaning. I think it's unisex. It's marketed as unisex, but I can see a lot of people on account of the woods and the spices arguing that this one is masculine leaning. Also, this one is more of a dressed up vibe. Perfect for the fall and winter. Like I said, there's a reason why I waited to review this one last, having sampled them all in tandem. I said this is definitely the darkest of the new ones. And I think this one will probably cater to somebody who's a little bit older, right? Especially considering the fact that this one doesn't have anything sweet in it, not as far as my nose can perceive. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I do like the dark aesthetic of the bottles here. My final verdict on this fragrance is it's a great dark, woodsy, peppery, incense-based perfume, and it's unique. So I really appreciate that. From an affordably priced niche brand, Bon Parfumeur, they've been around for such a long time. They are definitely worth your time. Please check them out, and check this one out, especially if you like them to be on the darker side of things. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took something of value from today's episode. And if you did, please do consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell, and giving this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So thank you again so much for joining me. I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.